This is the Enrichment Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Enrichment Sports Source. Well, that was kind of a Halloween wake-up call from Alabama, sort of the Nick Saban's in the house kind of a thing. It wasn't pretty, a 45-10 loss in Tuscaloosa. At the same time, we're going to provide a little bit of perspective today, and we're certainly going to spend a lot of time talking about Tennessee's quarterback situation. We begin as we always begin with the group that brings you this show each and every week, the folks at Enrichment Federal Credit Union. You can always stay connected to your money with Enrichment's mobile banking package, real-time balances, recent transactions in less than 10 seconds, 24/7 text message banking on your cell phone, transfer money, even pay bills right from your smartphone. Just another way, and we tell you about different ways every single week, just another way that Enrichment provides you with the best banking options in all of East Tennessee. Give them a call at one of their 8 area locations this week or check them out at enrichmentfcu.org. All right, got a big show as usual. Here's who's coming up on today's. Shazan Bradley, Chuck Cavaleras, Sterling Hinton, Will Overstreet, Bobby Scott, Mike Strange. That's not correct. Vince Ferrara is here today, so let the crowd cheer. We've gotten rid of Mike Strange. All right, that's a joke. All right, here with Jimmy Himes from the radio station 990 WNML. We got Bob Hodge, freelance contributor to Knoxville News Sentinel. We got former Vol, David Ligon right here, former O-lineman. Okay, Tennessee was bad right out of the gate. You had the long kickoff return that started things. You had a bad angle on a pretty simple pass play, led to a long touchdown score, and it was kind of lights out. It was one of those where the two fighters step into the ring and one of them's down before the first round is over. Alabama had 15 first downs in its first 28 plays. I don't know that I've ever seen that. How much stock should be put into yesterday's showing? And how much should you look at it and say, that was not a fair fight? Not a fair fight, or put some stock into it, guys?
I will put stock into it, excuse me, as
that
far
much.
as Tennessee. It just shows you where the gap is between Tennessee and the top teams. I put stock in it as it was a measuring stick. Tennessee's got a long way to go. They need more talent to be able to match up with Alabama's talent. But I don't put stock in it as far as I'm upset with Butch Jones. I'm upset with players. I just think that it was a total flop. No, you went and played the best team in the country. You've already played what is probably the second best team in the country. It shows you what the gap is. But I think Tennessee's still making progress. Didn't look at it like it in that game, but I think that's because of your competition.
I agree. I think Alabama's a great football team, and Tennessee's got a ways to go when it comes to getting in talent, and that staff's working towards that. But there were some mental mistakes that I think were really bad angles. Right. Those things you can work on to correct. That should have been corrected. But overall, even if we correct that play, that's one score off the board. Alabama's probably still driving down and scoring there.
Well, I'll just say this. I don't think you'll mind me pointing this out. You've come in here in previous losses, been upset about it. I mean, you look like a guy who played in the last 5 or 6 years. But you came in today, you were a lot more at peace with this. It's almost like, well, I knew it was coming. All right, Jimmy, your thoughts on how much stock you put into this game?
I don't put a lot of stock into it other than some of the same problems cropped up. Tennessee got beat at the line of scrimmage. They got beat because they don't have enough team speed, and they got beat because the quarterback play wasn't very good. And those are 3 things that have hurt Tennessee, in particular against the better teams. I don't know if Alabama's better than Oregon, or Oregon's better than Alabama. I do feel comfortable saying those are the 2 best teams in the country. Now, Florida State may make an argument, but I think those are the 2 best teams. And the thing I wonder a little bit about, though, is you did go on the road against those teams, and you got beat handily. Is Tennessee ready to go on the road and beat a Missouri? Are they ready to go on the road and beat Kentucky?
Yeah.
So
if you play bad enough and you're thin enough.
That's the thing I wonder a little bit about. Was it just the fact they were playing great teams, or is there an issue with them going on the road?
I would say just snap and clear, as we've got on the board. And they say that a lot, snap and clear. Forget that one. The real contest right now between Alabama and Tennessee is not on the field. It's on the recruiting trail. And in that one, Butch Jones, remarkably, is neck and neck. Alabama's number 1, Tennessee number 3. That's where you need to beat Alabama, or at least catch up to Alabama, is look at the talent difference between those 2 schools. Bob and I talked yesterday on the phone. Rajon Neal got behind Alabama's defense. Not one guy ran him down. 3 different Alabama players ran him down. You look at a guy who we've talked about all year, Cam Sutton, been a good, surprising young player for Tennessee. He was toasted, burned, lit up yesterday. from the first quarter through the fourth. These guys, doesn't mean he's a bad player, means he's not ready as a freshman to go up against what Nick Saban can throw out there after one number one recruiting class after another. I think forget this one, focus on the recruiting. That's where you're going to catch up to Alabama if you can. But let's take this a step further. Who from Tennessee's team would start for Alabama right now?
I'd say maybe a couple of offensive linemen.
Alex Bull.
Maybe.
Tiny Richardson. I think those two. And I think after that, Pilardi.
I think you've got guys in the rotation. I think Marquez North is in the rotation at receiver. I think you can find a defensive lineman. Maybe McCullers is a specialty down guy on the defensive line. Maybe A.J. Johnson's going to come in and play some, but from a standpoint of starting, not very many.
I agree. Not very many.
And I think if you look at Tennessee yesterday, and maybe it was just the way my perspective on my television, but I thought there were times where Tennessee's defensive line looked considerably larger than Alabama's offensive line. I mean, it was not like Tennessee had undersized guys,
right.
And they got handled, quite easily. And I think that goes to the credit of Alabama, and it just goes back to what I said. I think this is a game that you just kind of throw it out. You don't climb up on the bridge and jump over this.
But that's the next thing I want to talk about. And we've mentioned this. This is my great theory on sports that we toss out once every year, and that is don't ride the roller coaster. There's this feeling that when Tennessee wins a game, and there's any fan base, when Team X wins a game, they will never lose again. When Team X loses a game, the view is they're never going to win again. And the problem is Tennessee fans have dealt with so many of these types of, all right, baby step, then backwards, baby step, then backwards over the last 3, 4, 5 years that I think it's just become more of an instead of becoming, okay, we're getting used to this, I think it's leading to more dips and valleys because I didn't expect a lot of people to be angry after yesterday's game. I thought people would be disappointed. I didn't think there'd be that much anger. Tons of angry people. My phone blew up with texts from people who were outraged at Tennessee's performance, blaming coaches and everything else like you talked about. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's the best way to watch games either.
Well, I think that in some part, some Tennessee fans are tired of being patient.
Certainly.
Because you've had 3 straight 7-loss seasons. So it gets magnified. The longer you get away from being a competitive team, the more anxiety that builds up.
It's Alabama. I mean, we don't like Alabama. I don't care if they're number one or how many teams are in Division I now? 119. If we're 119, we still want to win that game, and if we lose, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah, I understand that, but you didn't go into that game thinking, yep, Tennessee's going to beat them.
I thought there might have been a small chance. Always going to be a chance.
But now here's the thing. I mean, I thought the chance was better after seeing Georgia and South Carolina than I would have said before the season started. But if throw out one more thing about Tennessee's player comparison to Alabama, look how good Pig Howard has looked against Georgia and South Carolina. And then look how he looked yesterday where people actually, they didn't run him down, it wasn't because he was slow or anything, but this is a kid that was making people miss, was showing off a lot of speed, and against Alabama, he just looked like a guy.
Yeah,
he couldn't get open.
He couldn't get open.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Tennessee fans can hope that Butch Jones could bring in a class or two the way that Nick Saban has. And then these guys, how many young guys are we talking about here for Tennessee, that these guys, by the time they're juniors and seniors, like those guys in Alabama, they're going to be ready for that kind of competition. All right, when we come back, we got a couple of hot topics. With Shazan Bradley, he's going to join us. We're going to talk about Josh Dobbs. That's going to be a lot of the show today, Josh Dobbs, when we come back. And we'll also talk about putting an end to the Tennessee-Alabama rivalry. Yesterday's game didn't help on that front. Is that such a bad thing? Come on back on the Enrichment Sports Source.